special edition here on Ringside Reporter Live. I'm here with my brother Joe Habib. All right, and we're here to talk the heavyweight division, Joe. The big boys, right? As goes the heavyweight division, as goes the sport of boxing. Now, I like that you're enjoying the intro music, Joe, but I got a quick question for you. The question is this.
Bomba clap.
Whoop, no, the question is this, sorry.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Who next?
Who next? Who next? Well, I'll tell you who it's looking like is next, Joe. At least from my perspective, and I think from yours, it's looking like next is going to be Tyson Fury. All right. So, I mean, the question for today is pretty simple, Joe. All right. Seems like Tyson Fury is giving everybody a Christmas gift. I don't know about you, Joe. I've been a very good boy all year. Have you been a good boy? I think I've been a good boy. Santa Claus is bringing us our Christmas gift, and next year that Christmas gift is going to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Probably Tyson Fury. At least he's vying for the title. He's taking on challenges. So the question is simple. Tyson Fury seems to have been able to get this done rather quickly. Why couldn't Joshua ever do it, Joe?
Well, there are some detractors that are saying, don't count your chickens before they hatch. It's not done yet. But here's the thing. You're hearing Usyk's manager, Igor Klimas, saying that they're talking. There's actually been some offers made from the Middle East. There's 3 offers from the Middle East. They've actually even floated a date out there, which was March 4th, right? And which is quite the opposite with the Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia situation where, they have tune-ups. There's been no dates. They're saying Vegas, but there's no offers from any hotels or anything like that. So this seems to be going in the right direction and moving along rather quickly. If you already have offers put in, you already have a potential date there. It seems very likely to happen, but there's more critics and more skepticism on whether this fight is going to happen as opposed to that Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. So I'm just going to float that out there because I find that extremely, extremely odd. So that's just number one. Number two, here's the thing. Eddie Hearn always likes to blame everyone else, but let's look at some examples. In order for Canelo to get undisputed, he had to go over to the PBC and fight on Showtime. Devin Haney, for him to become undisputed, he had to go over to ESPN and sign a 2-fight deal with Top Rank, or a 3-fight deal, if I'm not mistaken. He had to go over to Top Rank to get his undisputed deal done. And these are guys that worked with Eddie Hearn. So Eddie Hearn's a good promoter, but for whatever reason, that he has a hard time securing that undisputed fight. I don't think he's had any ever. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I don't think he's ever had a person in his stable that was actually undisputed, right? Bob Arum can say he had Lomachenko, right? I know Lomachenko was not undisputed. I apologize for that. He could say he had Terrence Crawford, right?
Yeah, Terrence Crawford, Josh Taylor,
right? He's had some undisputed fighters, right?
No, yeah, in a way right now.
In UA, so this is one accomplishment that Eddie Hearn just has not been able to achieve, right? For whatever reason, right? And he did have an opportunity to have the big fight with Tyson Fury before. And you can go back and forth whose fault it was. You can plenty of blame to go around on both sides, but for whatever reason, it just never got done.
Well, we can rehash that. I have no problems going into that after you give yourself.
But we can definitely do that. But here's another thing too: when Deontay Wilder was WBC champion, they couldn't get it done either, right? So it's not just with one guy. It's like the 2 guys who have had this title, right? He couldn't make it happen. So what do I always like to say? If you're having similar situations with multiple people, do you blame the multiple people, or do you look to yourself? Because if there's a pattern of behavior happening here, then who's really to blame? And I know that, there's always two sides to the argument, but you had difficulties with not only one fighter but two fighters in getting Undisputed done, right? So at some point you got to look at yourself. Did you overplay your hand in some of these situations? Did you actually have as much confidence in Anthony Joshua as you were trying to relay to the public publicly? Did you really have those types of opinions and feelings deep down inside, or were you just obviously doing your job and promoting your fighter? So that's what you have to ask yourself, right? And Tyson Fury is always the guy who's criticized. Oh, he's the guy who's full of shit. He's the guy who doesn't want the big fights. We've even gotten debates here. Oh, well, Tyson Fury, he's yet to even make a title defense. Then he makes his title defense against the guy who supposedly beat him up in sparring, and supposedly he was going to beat him, and supposedly no one cared about the fight, but 94,000 people showed up. All these claims that have been debunked. Now, has Tyson Fury been inconsistent over the years? 100%. Has Tyson Fury, talked a lot of shit over the years? Has he been a bullshit artist over the years? Absolutely. I want to criticize him for that. But he always comes through in the big moments. He fought Klitschko when Deontay Wilder was said to have been a baby by his manager, Shelley Finkel. Well, Tyson Fury was, effectively a baby, but he took the challenge. He was a 4-1 underdog. He went on hostile territory and he got the job done. Deontay Wilder didn't want any of that that Vladimir Klitschko smoke at that time. Whatever you want to say, whatever reason why, he was considered a baby. They didn't think he was ready for it. Most people didn't think Tyson Fury was ready for it, but guess what? He took on the challenge and he got it done. So his biggest moments, right? You can argue he hasn't been as consistent as Anthony Joshua. You can argue that maybe he hasn't been consistent as Deontay Wilder. But as I said before, this is not the heavyweight division of the 70s. It's not the heavyweight division of the 90s. If you want to really nitpick and pigeonhole everyone's resume, you can do that, right? But
well, I actually want to get into that when you're finished. I want to look at Anthony Joshua's resume.
Yeah, and we're going to both analyze that together, because there's a lot of things to point at, right? So at his highest moments, he's been much higher than everyone else. This is the argument I've made. Even if you want to say he's not consistent, he hasn't fought as many solid guys. Even if you want to go that route, his biggest fights are bigger than the other two guys' biggest fights. He won as the underdog, heavily being the underdog when he was not supposed to. He came back, had 2 tune-ups, and immediately jumped into a title fight, which he was advised not to do, even by his promoter. But he did it anyways. And I thought he won the fight, right? And in that situation, right? Same thing with Joshua. He's coming off back-to-back losses against Usyk, and then they offer him the Tyson Fury fight. This is not the best timing to do that. But was it the best timing for Tyson Fury to actually fight Deontay Wilder when he wasn't really all the way back after 2 insignificant tune-up fights, and roughly in a year and a half jumped right back into the fire with a Deontay Wilder fight? Were those optimum conditions for Tyson Fury? And he had to go on Deontay Wilder's backyard. He had to be the guy fighting away at home. He was not the A side in that fight. He was fighting under the PBC banner. He had everything going against him. But guess what? He fought Deontay Wilder because he knew he could win. Frank Warren knew he could win. That's what guys do. So why are these fights getting made from Tyson Fury? Now, you can argue, he walks to the beat of his own drum. You can argue, he didn't fight Klitschko in the rematch. He retired so conveniently and walked away when more than likely he was going to be under investigation. And he was going to be suspended pending that investigation because of the nandrolone. Do I believe the whole mental health thing? No, I don't. All those criticisms are valid. But again, he gives you the big fight when the other two in the big three never, ever did. Go.
Listen, it's very interesting to me, and I want to look at the resumes because a lot of narratives I hear are, well, Joshua's got the best resume of any active heavyweight. Joshua's resume is way bigger than Fury. Joshua's in the bigger fights, quote unquote. Well, I mean, there was a large time span pre-pandemic when Joshua held 3 versions of the heavyweight title, right? And Wilder held the WBC championship. And for whatever reason, the fight didn't get done, right? Flash forward a little bit, and, he has 3 versions of the heavyweight championship, and the fight for Fury with Fury falls through. Now, there's going to be various sides to that story in terms of why that couldn't happen. But also interesting to me is that, even more recently, big fights aren't necessarily being announced with Joshua, not even undisputed fights. I mean, doesn't have a title, but what are the fights that are on the horizon here? They had the Fury fight. They didn't want it, quote unquote, commercial engagements. Okay, everybody has commercial engagements. At some point, when you're no longer heavyweight champion of the world and you no longer bring title belts to the picture, you're going to have to meet people halfway. Like you're not going to be able to call all of the shots when you're fighting for other people's belts. And what are we left with now with Joshua? Who is he going to be fighting? Dillian White? Is that a big fight?
One point on this whole sponsorship thing.
Yeah.
And I apologize for cutting you off. This is going to be very brief because this needs to be said. In the last video we did together, I cited articles from various websites, even financial websites, Forbes.com. After the back-to-back losses from Alexander Usyk, he lost 30% of his sponsorships already. He made significantly less money after losing back-to-back to Usyk. Tyson Fury actually made more in endorsements than he did this year. So this whole thing about sponsorships and stuff, he was already losing them anyways. Like at some point, what do you put your career and your boxing priorities in the forefront, or do you want to just be a human billboard? You got to make that decision. There's plenty of time to get endorsements and sponsorships and residual income when the career is over. So what would have been the repercussions of going through with that Fury fight? You were already losing sponsorships anyways. So, what was the concern there and is what I'm trying to get at. But go ahead. I apologize for interrupting.
No, I mean, that's absolutely fine. Look, he's 24 wins. 22 of those wins have been by KO. That's impressive on the face of it. 3 losses, 1 by KO. We all remember that. It was here in New York at Madison Square Garden. But I mean, let's start with the title run. All right. Right before the title run, actually, he had the win over Dillian White, right? And I'll zoom in here so people can possibly see a little bit better. All right. Wins the title in 2016 against Charles Martin. Joe, humor me here. What kind of rating would you give him as a champion, Charles Martin, at that point?
Well, he won because who was the guy he fought? Was it Maskev or something like that? What was the guy? What was the guy's name? Olive Maskev or something? The guy blew his knee out. So that's how he became champion.
Well, and I believe this was his first defense, was it not? I believe it was against Joshua.
It was his first. It was his first defense.
Right. So look, I'm struggling to give a C grade as
let me ask you this.
I'm going to be honest.
Once again, let's look at Tyson Fury's first world title, the guy he fought to win his first world title, and let's look at Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua's
right. So names that you have to, because we hear it all the time. Well, Fury only fought Wilder, and Fury only fought Klitschko, and Wilder only fought Luis Ortiz, but AJ's got this amazing record. So let's look at it. I mean, it's here for everybody to see. So he wins the title in 2016 against Charles Martin, right? Defends the title against Dominic Breazeale. Rate him as an opponent, please. What are we giving Dominic Breazeale on a scale of 10?
With all due respect, I don't want to insult the guy, but I would probably give him maybe a 4 or a 5. I'd give Charles Martin's a 4 or a 5.
Help us out. Help us
Yeah.
out.
And let me jump in real quick.
Go for it.
Because everyone makes fun of Tyson Fury. Oh, he went life and death with Otto Wallen. I scored the fight 9-3. I mean, the cut really made that fight look worse than it was. But again, Wallen did some good early work. We'll give Wallen credit. Now, if Otto Wallen was to fight Charles Martin, right, or Dominic Breazeale, who would you favor in those fights?
I would favor Otto Wallin.
I would follow Otto Wallen or Otto Wallin, whichever you prefer. I would favor Wallen.
Without question.
Now continue. Now we're going to match up Otto Wallen versus all these guys.
Right? So we've got Dominic Breazeale 4 or 5 on the 10 scale. I think that's right. We've got Eric Molina. What are we talking about as a heavyweight contender? Give that a grade. I'm going to go lower. And
I'm going to go a 3. I'm giving that a 3.
Eric, I don't like
and
I really doing it because Eric is like me. He's a teacher. He's a certified teacher, Eric Molina. It's tough for me to do this, guys, but I got to go. And not
only that, we got to look at what these guys did after that, because these victories did not age well. Charles Martin's getting knocked out by 40-year-old Luis Ortiz. Dominic Breazeale's getting knocked out by Wilder in 1 round, and he would go 7 with Joshua. Eric Molina got knocked out by Wilder. Eric Molina, who did he fight? He fought someone, and they're saying that he's being accused of taking a dive. I forget what fight that was. Forgive me for not remembering. So these wins didn't age well.
They did not age well. So right now, what do we got here? Wins the title against Charles Martin. Defends it for the first time against Dominic Breazeale. Then we've got second defense, Eric Molina. All right. And again, remember the standard right now is winning the title against Klitschko, who at that time had reigned for many, many years. So that's the standard right now. Klitschko's the standard. You with me so far, Joe?
Yes.
Klitschko's the standard, right? And what happens next is we get to Klitschko. But let me ask you guys a question. Was the Klitschko that turned up after a long, protracted layoff, you could even call it a retirement at that point, to fight Joshua, was that the same Klitschko that Tyson Fury beat in Dusseldorf?
If it was the same Klitschko, then why would a green guy like Anthony Joshua, who just beat some low-level guys, with all due respect, I don't like to insult the fighters, but they weren't world beaters. Why, when Fury fought Klitschko, he was a 4-1 underdog, and Joshua was a 2-1 favorite against him, right? With the very limited experience that he had. So everyone was suggesting and pretty much insinuating, and for all intents and purposes knew that was not the same Vladimir Klitschko, because the odds reflected that as much. And the odds are greatly based off of public perception of what the fight is, right? And he still went, look at the scores there. They were relatively close at the time of this, before the time of the stoppage. Some people actually even had Vladimir Klitschko up in that fight. He went life and death with him. He went life and death with him. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious who fought the better version, because the public has indicated as such who fought the better version. The people have spoken on that one. But go ahead.
Well, the people have spoken, but what's interesting to me is that, it still gets brought up when it comes to Fury as, that was Klitschko. He was old. He wasn't the same Klitschko. But then years later, we give Joshua all the credit in the world for beating him, not on enemy soil at home at Wembley Stadium. But I mean, we're going to keep going.
Listen to this comment. I think the Klitschko that fought AJ was more aggressive
I-
because he was allowed to be more aggressive. Because he was allowed to be more aggressive.
Because James Burrow
when you're being fainted out of your socks, you can't be aggressive. Just like Pacquiao was more aggressive against Cotto than he was against Marquez, because every time Pacquiao stepped forward, he was getting caught with a right, not every time, but a lot of times he was stepping forward, he was getting caught with right hands. So of course, the opponent has something to do with that. Again, please don't insult our intelligence on this show.
What is this pretentious CRT? Is he talking about critical race theory? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
I'm an advocate.
Yeah.
He obviously doesn't know anything. He obviously doesn't even know anything about me.
We already know when someone has to go ad hominem, they ran out of ideas already. Might as well just take the L, brother. If you're going ad hominem, if you can't bring logic to this discussion,
but
you got the L, bro.
That's a funny one.
Let's give him the L.
I preach all day long is a class solidarity. Usually I don't bring kind of race theories into my analysis at all. I'm a proud member of the working class. I'm a union.
Someone's getting mad because we're making fun of we're not making fun of. I rephrase that and I apologize. We're criticizing their favorite fighter, and he thinks we're making fun of his favorite fighter. We have not insulted AJ in any way. We're just analyzing his competition.
I'm just analyzing his record here. That's all. And at the end of the day, right now, we're at what? We're at winning the title against Charles Martin, defending it against Dominic Breazeale, and then Eric Molina. And then all of a sudden, right, the IBO and WBA Super World Heavyweight titles come into the mix. All of a sudden, okay, against
they give him 2 vacant titles to beat a guy getting off the couch after almost 3 years.
Right? They just I get it. He got 2 vacant titles just thrown into the mix. It is Christmas, so I mean that was a rather early Christmas. It was in April. Not too sure when Anthony Joshua's birthday is, but maybe it was an early birthday gift. I'm not too sure, but he wins vacant titles by beating Vladimir Klitschko, and then what do we get? We get Carlos Takam again. Please, Joe, humor me. What are we giving Carlos Takam on a scale of 10 as a heavyweight?
I apologize in advance to Carlos Takam and his family, but I'm giving him a 4.
Yeah, I mean that's being
sorry. I'm sorry. I don't mean to insult anybody, but
again, with the fight, with the wins not aging well, what is Carlos Takam? What did he do before that loss, and what has he done?
And then he got knocked out against Derek Chisora after that.
Brutally knocked out. By the way, question: Who had the better knockout against Carlos Takam? AJ or Derek Chisora?
Derek Chisora. Who had the better performance against Usyk? AJ or Derek? AJ or Derek Chisora? Who had the better performance against Usyk?
Derek Chisora all day, every day. So, listen. I mean, Puro Sur seems to be enjoying this. I'm happy I can make you laugh and smile on Christmas. Feliz Navidad, Puro Sur. I hope you had a very nice Noche Buena last night. I know I definitely did. All right, and later on I'll be getting back to the family stuff. But, you know, you guys are also our extended family, all right, our subs, you know, and we wanted to do something for you guys on Christmas. So I'm happy you're here. So Team Batman says, I can't listen to anyone down talk any of AJ wins, but as Crawford pound for pound #1, I don't have him pound for pound #1. So maybe he's talking about you, but I don't have him #1. Who's not fought a champion in 6 years. I honestly hope he moves up and fights Tim Tszyu for the interim title if I'm him. Okay.
I don't have Crawford. I don't have Crawford pound for one.
I had my #1.
I don't actually do pound for pounds, but the last time, if I was to do a pound for pound, I would probably put Usyk at #1. But again, people love to misconstrue my statements. In my opinion, I believe
It wasn't aimed at us. You can let him let it rock.
I apologize. I apologize.
No,
I apologize.
I inferred, and I inferred.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Lennox who's always not Lennox Lewis, by the way. Just make sure everybody know this is not Lennox Lewis. It's a guy who says Lennox was best, which is about the only thing I ever agree on with Lennox was best, by the way, this name. But you're missing the intent. It's like saying Haney had a weak win versus Gambosis, but Haney has always chased the guy. AJ was doing the same.
Was he really chasing the guy? And like, if you're chasing, but here's the difference. Here's the difference. Haney got the guy, and Haney's going to get the other guy pretty soon. Like he's going to get the Lomachenko fight. Why when Haney left Eddie Hearn, all these fights are getting made? Why? Undisputed's getting made. Now the fight with Lomachenko looks very highly likely like it's going to get made. Why are all these fights getting made now? Why? Explain to me why.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I got to say, but why is pound for pound relevant here in a heavyweight discussion? No, you're right. And
because it's called deflection.
This deflection, and everybody that follows my channel, by the way, hit the like button here. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and also check me out on my channel, Maestro A. All right, I'm talking boxing week after week as well, even when I'm not here with my brother Joe Habib. But yeah, I don't play Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I don't play, well, Maestro, if we whittle Tyson Fury down to 147 pounds, Terrence Crawford would beat him. Therefore, Terrence Crawford's better. I don't play that game. All right? I don't do that. All right?
I hate pound for pound.
So it's the dumbest shit ever. The only thing I go off of pound for pound is I'm looking at accomplishments in the ring, level of opposition, and when we go back to the heavyweight division, which is the discussion of today, the question is, when are we going to get to a 9? When are we going to get to a level 10 in level of opposition? Right now, we're hovering approximately, Joe, between a 3 and a 5 so far for level of opponents. Are we not?
Yes.
I'll go up.
And I'm going to give Klitschko right there, with all due respect, I'm going to give him a 6.5 at that stage.
I was about to say the exact same grade because of his age at that point. The fact that he wasn't on like a knockout streak like he was when Fury fought him, but we'll give him a 6.5. So,
and add up all these numbers and give me the average number, and then we'll do the same thing for Tyson Fury if you want to.
100%. So right now we're gonna go Carlos Takam. We're back to a 3. All right. Next one. All right. I'm gonna raise it up a little bit for this fight. I'm gonna give AJ some credit. This is the first time when we're hovering into 7 and 7.5 range with Joseph Parker. But again, the question is, what has Joseph Parker actually done since this fight with AJ? Go for it, Joe.
Well, how did Joseph Parker win his title?
In a disputed win at home against Andy Ruiz Jr.
Was it a vacant title at the time?
It was.
And he went life and death with Andy Ruiz. And once again, that fight didn't age well either, because Joseph Parker lost to Dillian White after that, right? He arguably lost to Derek Chisora after that, and he got knocked out by Joe Joyce recently, with all due respect. So Joseph Parker, I'm actually going to give that one a flat 6, because I like Joseph Parker. I think he's a solid fighter. Just was never crazily impressed with him. He's very passive in the ring sometimes. And actually, only recently has he started becoming more aggressive. And it's like a double-edged sword. He's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, because when he does become more aggressive, he tends to fade a little bit, and he's not the most resilient guy in the world. I mean, he slows down, and because of his stamina, I think he's more susceptible to taking damage and being stopped later in fights. I think Chisora in the first fight, I thought Chisora clearly won that fight. Most people did. So at the end of the day, I'm I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you. I'm giving that's another 6 for me.
So I'm actually laughing too because of Lennox comment. Maestro gets in his feelings. He has a fragile ego when he's not right as he believes. Laugh out loud. That's actually
There is no right or wrong here. Once again, guys, we're two people with opinions.
Yeah.
And if you want to disagree with our opinion and you want to debate our opinions, you have to bring logic to the table, not emotion. We just told you that Tyson Fury can be criticized, but criticize him accurately and praise him accurately. That's all I'm saying.
Praise AJ accurately. Now, what the person's going to tell us, Joe, is, well, Vladimir Klitschko was a stadium fight. Carlos Takam was a stadium fight. Joseph Parker was a stadium fight. Okay, they were stadium fights, but we're actually looking not at ticket sales, guys. We're looking at level of opposition. That's what we're doing. Because we constantly hear that this guy has the best level of opposition. And I'm sorry, but we're doing a very good job right now of debunking it, whether you like it or not.
A solid win. At the time, that was a solid win. But who was Joseph Parker's greatest win in his title run? Andy Ruiz.
Yeah.
And did that win age well?
Yeah, and that wasn't even a title run. That's like him winning the title, a vacant title. So next we get to one, and you may disagree with my scoring over here on this particular one, but at that point in his career, I'm sorry. I can't give Alex Povetkin anything more than a 5.5, 6 at most. Joe.
5.
Even lower. 5 it is. I'm not gonna argue with that. And here we go. IBF, IBO, WBA, Super World, and WBO now because he had just come off the Parker win. Then we go Andy Ruiz. And this is a very interesting one to look at because number one, the initial person that was offered a fight for this fight was actually Dillian White, a guy who we'd already beat and knocked out. That's who they were targeting. Dillian White refused what was reported to be like in excess of $6 million.
Well, he's saying he was offered 3 and then they upped it to 4. And then Big Baby Miller, they're saying, was getting 5 or 6.
Oh, sorry. So it was Big Baby that
they intentionally lowballed Dillian White because they wanted to come to the United States and fight Big Baby Miller.
There you go. So they lowballed Dillian White. It was Big Baby that got the $6 million offer. We all like Big Baby. I'm sorry, wouldn't have been a good opponent. I would have given Big Baby probably a 3 as a challenger opponent. It was supposed to be a showcase fight. AJ was going to be the heavy favorite going into that fight. Turns out Big Baby gets popped for steroids and substitute Andy Ruiz. A guy whose claim to fame at that point was having a disputed loss to Joseph Parker in New Zealand. Had he done anything else up to that point, really?
25-1 underdog. I'm not going to play revisionist history. I'm not going to play Monday morning quarterback here. I'm going to give you my opinion of Andy Ruiz going into that fight, what I thought he was. I would give him a 5 going into that fight because he's been so inconsistent. And again, his greatest claim to fame was losing a disputed decision against Joseph Parker. But after that, he really didn't light the world on fire. There's a reason why he was a 25-1 underdog. So it's laughable to me when Eddie Hearn throws, with all due respect, Andy Ruiz's name as a great person on Anthony Joshua's resume just because he beat him in the rematch. He was a 25-1 underdog going into that fight for a reason, and he was a 3-1 underdog going into the rematch for a reason. With all the, in my opinion, I do think Anthony Joshua went into that fight compromised. I do believe he was injured. But the result is what the result is.
The result is what the result is. He fought Andy Ruiz in the rematch, and Andy Ruiz that was in worse physical condition than he was in the upset win. And I don't know. I wasn't impressed by the win, Joe. I just wasn't. The win in the dunes, got it. You boxed the guy, didn't really want to engage that much, used your height and size just like you should, but you didn't do what Lennox would do in a rematch. You didn't do that. You didn't get a brutal, emphatic knockout in the rematch. You tippy-toed your way to a decision win, unanimous decision. But, you know, I'm sorry. I'm not really giving that performance anything more than a 5. I'm just not.
Yeah, that's another 5. And I'll tell you, I did pick Andy Ruiz to win the rematch, but then I still stuck with it.
Yeah, but Joe, in your fairness, you did that well before you knew that he was going to come in at a career high weight and was totally prepared for
I did stick to my original prediction even after that, but again, I looked at that in disgust, and I looked at that in shock when I saw him weighing in at 280. And by him weighing in at 280, unfortunately, that does take away from Joshua's victory in that fight, because you had a guy who openly wasn't training, whose trainer, he admitted he wasn't training. He admitted he didn't go 100% in training and preparation. And his trainer came out and said that he didn't listen to anything I did, and I had to basically fight with him to get him in the gym. So that takes, unfortunately, that's going to take some of the luster off of that win, in my opinion. That's another 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not giving you credit for that one. I'm sorry. It's not happening. I'm not doing it. I'm just not. So now things get even more interesting because we got Kubrat Pulev.
That's a 4.
A 40-plus-year-old Kubrat Pulev, who, again, his claim to fame was having fought for the title before against Klitschko and getting knocked out.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we up to? What'd you give that, a 4 as an opponent?
4.
Okay. I mean, that's generous. All right. And then we get to back-to-back losses versus Alexander Usyk. And let's not skirt the issue here, Joe. Because Eddie Hearn said it himself. This isn't Maestro speaking right now. This is Eddie Hearn speaking. A lot of people would have avoided that fight.
We were thinking about swerving it as well too. That quote unquote. We were thinking about, we were saying to ourselves, maybe we should swerve this one, quote unquote.
This was a mandatory fight, guys.
Imagine your own promoter saying we were thinking about. But how much confidence does your promoter really, really, really have in you if he's saying before the fight, maybe we should have swerved this one? Not after, before. We were thinking to ourselves, maybe we should have swerved this one.
Unanimous decision loss. You know, they gave him a little bit of a confidence boost, I guess, in the second one, split decision loss. I thought it was unanimous as well, personally. And that's it. That's the heavyweight title run, ladies and gentlemen. That's the title run of the guy with the best record active in the heavyweight division. That was it. What we just went through. That was it.
And this was an Usyk coming off of all the stress of what was going on in the Ukraine, being over there. In whatever capacity, he's still there. There's still stress there. There's still an inconvenience there. So it is what it is. Going into the first Usyk fight, if you would have asked me, what was Usyk, I probably would have given him a 7 because I picked Joshua to win that fight. In the rematch, Usyk was probably an 8. But once again, what difference does it make if you lost both of the fights? So you know what that tells you? When you get up to 7 and 8s, you lose.
I mean, you just said it.
In order for you to win, you got to be fighting 5s and 6s.
You just said it.
4s, 5s, and 6s.
So, Joe, basically now what the argument has been reduced to is this. Yeah, he fought guys that I think are better than Deontay Wilder in Usyk. Maybe they'll even say Joyce. But he lost to them. So what do you want, a cookie? You lost twice.
Lennox, Lennox.
Lost twice. What are we
Lennox.
talking about here?
Lennox. Imagine if you were working for a company, right? And they say, and they're talking about you as an employee, and they're saying, yeah, he's okay, but maybe we should have hired someone else. I mean, he's okay, he's getting the job done, but maybe we should have hired someone else. There's another guy out there that we were thinking about hiring. He probably could have done a better job than that. How would that make you feel as an employee? Are you going to say, oh, my boss is telling the truth? Even if your boss is telling the truth, he's kind of degrading you a little bit. He's downplaying you a little bit. He's making you, look less than. Is that good? I mean, come on now, Lennox, please stop, Lennox.
I mean,
don't just argue. Don't just argue for the sake of arguing, and then look at Beeps getting mad. I mean, if you came on here just to irritate me, is that
not gonna work? Like, you think
is that productive? Is that a productive thing to do? Go on podcasts and troll people to make them? Is that your goal in life? I mean, are you just trying to create disagreements? Are you disagreeing, or are you just being disagreeable? What is your goal with your arguments? What are you doing here, Lennox? What are you doing here? You're looking really bad.
One of the most ridiculous conversations I had with Lennox.
He's just he just argues for the sake of arguing, bro.
He's trying to convince me that the prime minister and the president are the same thing, when I'm like, no, they're not. I mean, you have countries like France, like Israel, like India. I could go on and on, that have a president and a prime minister. A prime minister is not a head of state. Man, he's texting me all day long, talking to me about how I'm wrong about this. He comes on just to disagree. I don't get in my feelings. This is fun to me, bro.
Put his last comment up. Put his last comment up. Missing context again. They were talking about swerving Usyk not to jeopardize bigger fights. Okay. So from a financial standpoint, let's be honest. Is Fury fighting Alexander Usyk really that much bigger than him fighting a Joe Joyce? Would the paydays be comparable? So could Fury swerve Usyk and fight Joe Joyce instead? Because think about it. He could give Joe Joyce a smaller percentage of the pot than he could give Usyk, because Joe Joyce doesn't hold any titles, right? So he could arguably make more money fighting Joe Joyce instead of Usyk. But what are they doing? They're talking about fighting Usyk next day. I already have people making offers for the fight. So by your logic, Fury could swerve Usyk too for probably a better payday against fucking Joyce. So once again, the proof is in the pudding. He's not swerving Usyk. And no one said we could swerve Usyk. No one, when you ask Bob Arum about Fury Usyk, and you ask and Usyk is Usyk, Fury considers Usyk a friend. Excuse me, not Fury. Arum considers Usyk a friend. And he's saying, I don't think he can win the fight. I think Fury would win the fight. So again, out of context. But you're creating your own context. You're filibustering here, Lennox. I mean, stop. You're embarrassing yourself, bro.
So
you can comment all you want. Like, all you're doing is just hanging yourself with these comments. You're digging yourself a bigger hole.
And also hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also consider joining the memberships, guys. I mean, Joe's hard at work. He's got the regular show with Eric Lorda. They do their thing. You enjoy it, because I enjoy it week after week. Subscribe, man. Right? Throw them a couple bucks a month. Right? Think about what you spend your money on in every week, right? I mean, just throw a couple bucks at the channel. They're providing you with great content. All right. And these memberships are not expensive at all. So I just figured I'd throw that one in before I get back to what I wanted to go back to here, Joe, which is this: wins the title against Charles Martin, defends.
Let's add up all the numbers. I'm going to add up all the numbers. Charles Martin was a 4, right?
I mean, I'm giving Charles Martin a 3. I can't give him a 4.
I'm going to give him a 3.5.
All right. Dominic Brazil.
That's another 3.
Eric Molina.
That's another 3.
Then we go Klitschko
That's a 6.5 at the time.
at the time because of the inactivity and the age. Then we've got Carlos Takam.
That's a 3.
We've got Joseph Parker. I said 7. You said 6. I'm not going to disagree with your 6 because at the end of the day, Joseph Parker did not do much before fighting Joshua. And since fighting Joshua, has actually not done that much either. I mean, he lost to Dillian White. He went life and death with Derek Chisora. Fought Derek Chisora, knocked him out the second time, and then got brutally stopped after being brutally dominated by the juggernaut Joe Joyce. So I'm not going to disagree with you. All right. Following that, we've got Alexander Povetkin, 40 plus, former WBA regular titleist. Andy Ruiz. No, not Andy Ruiz, what you're grading him after the win. Andy Ruiz going into the fight.
Inconsistent. I'm gonna give him a 4.5.
Bro, biggest accomplishment being losing to Joseph Parker, literally up to that point. I'm not going to disagree. The rematch.
I'll give him a 5 in the rematch because he's coming off the win.
Right. And
but his conditioning and his whole outlook brought him down to
I'd probably say 4.5 again. Career high. Then we got Kubrat Pulev.
3.5.
And then we're not even counting Alexander Usyk.
Those were losses, so we're not going to count those. So
we're going to do
2, 3, 4,
how many fights was that?
7 fights. So 42 divided by 7. His average level of opposition was a 6.
Where I come from, that's in teaching. That's
average
pass. And matter of fact, sorry, let me get this right. What do we do using a DOE? So you need that's barely a pass.
Yeah,
that's barely a pass.
If that was like your driver's permit test, you failed it. You would need to get a 70 on it.
100%.
So let's do Tyson Fury's. Let's average his opponents. So that's a 6.
That's a 6. We're gonna do Tyson Fury next. Just give me one moment.
We'll start it from his title win from Klitschko.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Gotta stop, and then I'm gonna add it in right here. Just give me a second. Live show, everybody. Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining us here today. And like I said, I hope you're enjoying the Christmas Day content that we got for you. All right, so here we go. The Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, 33 wins and 0 losses. As you know, he is undefeated, and his only draw came at the hands of Deontay Wilder. I'm going to bring this up for you guys in a moment so I can scroll properly like we did with our other fighter that we're discussing today, Anthony A.J. Joshua. All right, so here we go. We're going to start with the Vladimir Klitschko win, correct?
Yes.
At the time, given who Vladimir was, given the fact that nobody was giving Tyson Fury a shot, I'm going to go 9 out of 10 on that one.
I'm giving it a 10.
I'm not going to disagree. Actually, you know what? It's got
to be a 10. It's got to be a 10. Won that fight 9 rounds to 3 on my card.
And here's the other thing. Actually, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm going to correct myself, and I'll tell you why. Prior to that, how was Vladimir Klitschko losing his fights?
By knockouts.
Was he boxed?
No, he was never. That was the first and only time he's ever been outboxed in his career. The only way you could beat the guy was knocking him out.
10 out of 10 performance. All right. Sefer Seferi comeback fight. I'm going to put that as a 2.
I was going to say 2 as well. That's a 2.
Francesco Pianetta, that's a 2.
That's a 2.
Undefeated WBC champion with his knockout record, Again, I'm going to go with what I gave the first fight, which I believe now is a 10. I'm giving Deontay Wilder. I'm giving that. I got to
giving
go.
it a 9. I'm going to give it a 9.
Solid 9 right there.
That's a 9.
That's a solid 9. Okay. Tom Schwartz, I'm going to give that one a 3.
I'll give it a 2.
A 2. Otto Wallin, I think, is a 3.
Otto Wallin, I'm going to actually give that one a 4 because I always thought he was pretty decent. I'll give that one a 4.
No, but you know what? I'm going to actually amend mine for Schwartz and for Wallin, and I'll tell you why. Because they were undefeated. The guys that I was bringing up, Takam wasn't undefeated when Joshua fought him. Takam wasn't undefeated, right?
That's fine. I'm not going to try to persuade you either way. I'm going to give Wallin a 4.
You just think though here, Takam was not undefeated, and Eric Molina was not undefeated, right? Was Dominic Brazil undefeated?
No.
He
was. I apologize. He was undefeated.
I'm going to keep it at a 3. Tom Schwartz, 3. Otto Wallin, I'll say 4. Deontay Wilder, the way he stopped him in the second fight, I'm actually going 10 on that one. It was a brutal stoppage.
That's going to be another 9 because I favored him to win, but I'm only going by my perception. But I could easily see why there's a bit. You know what? I'm going to give that a 9.5. That's a 9.5.
9.5. All right, and then we've got Dillian White. I'm going to give that a 6. You're reading my mind. I was going to give that a 6 too, and I'll tell you why I was going to give it a 6. A lot of people are saying he was avoiding him. A lot of people are saying he'd never take the fight. A lot of people are saying the style was all wrong for Tyson Fury. And then on Derek Chisora, I'm going to give that a 4 at that point.
I'm going to give it a 3.
A 3. Okay, so why don't you add up your scores, Joe?
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 47.5 divided by 8. So we came to a 5.9375. So we roughly have a dead heat. And what happened was the reason why we came to that score, they're actually, which I've said several times, I think all 3 of these guys, Wilder, Fury, and Joshua, you can argue that their resumes are kind of comparable, right? I think you can argue either way, right? So this is roughly a dead heat, or you can argue Joshua has he's a 6 versus a 5.9. He's like.
All right, here's my question. Here's my question. Sorry to interrupt. White literally had got knocked out, and Chisora a 3. He more like a -3. So if Chisora's a -3, what are we giving Eric Molina?
Yeah,
he'd been. What do we give Molina? We gave Eric Molina a 3.
What I've said before is when you look at Fury's biggest wins, right? They overshadow Joshua's biggest wins. They were more significant, and they had a higher level of difficulty, in my opinion. And because of that, all of those 2s and 3s that Fury fought kind of get erased. Because once again, my point was Fury has been better than Joshua at his highest moments.
Don't forget,
right?
we're only looking at title runs, right? And
yeah.
Not title run, but we looked at all fights since winning the title. But let me ask you this, right? What are the scores of the top 3 fights for Tyson Fury, and what are the top 3 scores of the fights for Anthony Joshua?
Yeah, Fury's been in some 9s and some 10s.
Look,
and if I want to give both Wilder fights, right? If I want to give both Wilder, did you add in the third Wilder fight too?
No, we didn't. We only did the 2 Wilder fights.
Why don't we put the third one in there?
I don't know. You just didn't add it up.
Oh, so we got to put the third one in there then. So we forgot to put the third one in there.
Yeah.
So the third one, we only did 2 Wilder fights, right?
Yeah.
So the third Wilder fight, I'm going to give that one a 7.
Yeah. I was going to say definitely not a 9. because people were
Okay.
expecting it this time. But a 7 is solid.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 54.5 divided by 10. So we roughly come about, like, once again, like it's pretty close to even again, like 6 and 6, pretty close to. If you think about it. So I mean, their resumes in terms of opposition are very closely comparable, right? But what happens is when you take Fury's best wins against Joshua's best wins, whenever and anytime Fury's gone above that 6, gone above that 7, gone above that 8, he's won. Joshua has never won going above the 6.
Okay, first of all, Joe said that the first win was a 9, the second win was an 8, and the third win was a 7, right? Isn't that what you said?
No, I said the first one was a 9.5.
Okay.
I think I had both the fights 9.5s, and the third fight I had a 7.
All right, I think that that's very fair. And if you count those as his top 3 wins, I mean, divide that by 3, right?
Well, and if then you want to, if you throw Klitschko in there, right, which is a 10,
throw Klitschko in. So why don't we
plus
do let's do top
9.5
fights.
plus 9.5
Fights.
plus 7 divided by 3. I mean, that's a 12. Think about it. Wait a minute. So you got 10.
Take the top 3 fights. You're gonna have to remove one of those Wilder fights. Add the Klitschko fight and divide by 3.
Oh, top 3 you want to do? Okay, so 10 and plus 2 9 plus 9.5 plus 9.5, which is 29 divided by 3. That's a 9.6.
So Tyson Fury's top 3 wins are a 9.6 out of 10 average. Let's go with Joshua's top 3 wins. What do we got? We've got Klitschko. What'd you give Klitschko? I gave it
I gave it a 6.5 at the time.
All right, so 6.5.
I'll give it a 7 though. I'll give him the benefit though. I'll give it a 7.
We got Klitschko, Parker. What do you give Parker?
6.
6. So you got 7 plus 6, and then the third highest, I believe, was
Maybe
probably Andy Ruiz
rematch,
right?
Yeah.
Which I gave. What did I give it? It wasn't higher than a 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that a 5.
All right, so add up those 3 scores and divide by 3.
It's a 6.
There you go. So in top 3 fights for these 2 fighters, we've got a guy who's got over 9.5 out of 10 versus a guy who has 6 out of 10. Look, I teach for the Department of Ed in New York City. 6 out of 10, that's barely a pass. 6 out of 10, you're likely going to have to go to summer school at the end.
And what hurts, if you were to take the totality of their fights when they both became champion, they're roughly both a 6. So because Fury had a lot of those lower fights in between, but the big difference is when Fury fights the above 7 guys, or when he fights the guys who are 7 or above, he wins. Joshua loses.
Well, I'm not counting White, number 1. White, we're talking title defenses. So are you saying
we're talking title runs?
You're saying that we forgot the Fury fight for White. We're doing top 3 fights. To me, all 3 wins with Wilder were better than the win versus Fury. Well, 2 of them weren't. One of them wasn't a win. So the 2 wins against Wilder were better for Fury than his win versus White, number 1. So we have those 2 plus the Klitschko. That's 3 total. So that's the reason we include
we actually made a mistake.
What was the mistake?
This is what we did, and this actually worked against Fury. Should we have added those comeback fights while Fury wasn't champion?
Woo!
We should have subtracted those comeback fights. So
they weren't
so we'll put
fights.
We'll put the Klitschko. So we made it. We skewed it wrong. So we'll give the Klitschko a 10. We'll give
and look through the list. So we got Klitschko, right?
At 10.
Wilder, the
first Wilder
yeah.
at that was a title fight. We're going to give that a 9.5.
Good.
That was
the second Wilder.
The second Wilder fight, we're going to give that one another. I'm going to give it another 9.5. But if you want to give it,
I thought that the second Wilder fight was a 9.5 because of how we knocked him out.
The third Wilder fight, we're going to give a set. We're going to give a 7.
So bad, ladies and gentlemen, that an entire cottage industry of conspiracy videos popped up explaining the win.
So now,
that's imaginable it was to certain people. So
now we give the 7 Wilder fight a 7.
Yep.
No, the third Wilder fight actually a 7.
A 7. Right.
And then we give the Dillian White fight. We'll give that a 6. And I'm going to give the Chisora fight a 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 45 divided by 6. He actually becomes a 7.5 in his championship run, while Joshua becomes a 6. So he's actually been more impressive, in my opinion.
Big up to Benoit Peloquin. Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Joyeux Noël. Because you just helped us reanalyze those numbers. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So actually, in terms of the championship runs, you can argue that Fury had a better one.
I mean, I think we just proved it.
And you could the criticism could be, well, he fought Wilder fought the same guy 3 times. Okay, but that guy that he fought 3 times, my opinion, would have beaten Povetkin.
Right. And one of those draws.
Would have beaten. He would have beaten Takam. I don't think anyone on Joshua's championship run resume. I think I would even pick Wilder possibly to beat that version of Klitschko. You could argue either way, right? And when Fury fought Wilder, 50% of the people thought Wilder was the best heavyweight in the world, and 50% of the people thought Joshua was the best heavyweight in the world. So, Fury's never fought the guy who was ever thought to be number 1 in the division and take that number 1 spot away from him. I mean, Joshua's never done that. Fury has. Joshua never has. Joshua beat the number 1 guy when he beat Klitschko. He arguably beat the number 1 guy, right? 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it, when he beat Wilder, right? So that's the thing. So if you look at those metrics, you can there's an argument for Fury being more impressive as champion than Joshua.
100%. I mean, at the end of the day, and for anyone who's complaining about the fact that he fought Wilder 3 times, well, the first time was a draw, which facilitated the second fight. The second fight was by brutal knockout, but there was a rematch clause. And the third fight was by brutal knockout. But really, it was 2 wins. So, and here's the thing. I mean, weren't they trying to make the Dillian White rematch, even though Dillian White was brutally stopped the first time? Did they make that rematch or no?
Yes.
Are they considering making that rematch right now? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was there any controversy in the first fight with Dillian White? No.
A little bit. Well, not really. Not really.
I don't think that.
Not really.
Is it a draw?
No, you're right. There wasn't any controversy, so there's no need for it.
So exactly why should this facilitate necessitate a second fight?
Why has Wallen been taken out of the picture? Because he was mentioned, right?
It wasn't. We're talking about title fights.
No, I'm saying what's happening here is you're talking about potential opponents for Joshua when he's coming back. I don't know if that's where you were going, but I'm going to go there. Why was Wallen taken off the table essentially, and now they're saying that they're gearing towards fighting Dillian White next? Because Dillian White didn't look good against Jermaine Franklin. So why is he getting the rematch, right? And Wallen's not getting that opportunity against Joshua.
Yeah.
So once again.
I mean, Wallen deserves a rematch with Fury. Why? Because he lost 8 rounds and cut him? I mean, he cut him. Okay. How many rounds did he win?
I only gave him 3 rounds in that fight, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I was being generous when I said that Fury won 8. Because really, I thought he really only lost 2 rounds, but 3 rounds at most. I disagree about not considering his comeback fights. He was lineal champion. If he had lost, a new champion would have been crowned if Joshua fought Usyk or Wilder.
Yeah, lineal champion is a subjective term in terms of significance. I don't think that means anything. I mean, he walked away from the sport for almost 3 years. The division doesn't freeze frame and go on hold for him. I never gave him credit for being lineal champion. That's just my opinion. You can argue against it if you want, but it's not an official title, bro. You're not forced to fight mandatories. You're not, there's no sanctioning fees for that title. There's no belt for that title. That title and the ring title, with all due respect to Dougie Fisher and the guys over there, I just don't hold them as real titles, in my opinion.
Do you remember when we were all looking forward to this, Joe?
Yes.
Wasn't that going to be for Undisputed?
Yes.
What happened with that?
Didn't happen, brother.
What happened with that?
Didn't happen.
All 4 belts would have been on the line, right?
Yeah.
Was it commercial interests again, like it was with the Joshua versus Fury fight that was supposed to potentially take place last fall that just passed? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Late fall? I mean, it didn't happen. This didn't happen. Right? This didn't happen. Right? So again, this is all I'm really trying to understand, right? A, the whole argument that his heavyweight record is better. We just went through that. B, the idea that this is the guy that makes the fights happen. To me, there's only really been 2 fights that really happened, to be honest. One was him getting a shot at vacant belts against Klitschko, right? Who, as somebody in the chat pointed off, was coming off an 18-month hiatus. How's a guy who's been out of the ring for 18 months fight for vacant titles? I don't understand, but he did it, right? So he made that fight happen. And the only other fight that he made happen, quote unquote, was a mandatory fight against Usyk that he lost, which he was able to negotiate I wouldn't even say he bought. They actually bought, because they paid Usyk a lot of money for a rematch clause. He got the rematch, so he made that fight happen. But what are these fights exactly that he made happen, Joe?
Again, I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. I like what he did with Katie Taylor, but I apologize. He does have one undisputed champion. He has Katie Taylor. So I stand corrected there.
We're talking men's boxing, Joe. I didn't know we were talking the WNBA. See, when I'm talking to NBA, I don't want you bringing up WNBA championships.
You can argue that too, yeah.
Relevant. I'm talking about the NBA. I'm not talking about.
In reality, this is going to be a sexist statement. But the world is sexist. But women's boxing and men's boxing are 2 different sports.
They're different sports. It's like
they're fighting 10 rounds. They're fighting 2 minutes. It's not the same sport.
It's different. It's not the same.
See now, this is a chat. Take notes. When I'm corrected and proven wrong, I concede points. Guys got to do the same. Maestro's right. Technically, they're 2 different sports.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at
there's different sets of rules for both sports. They're not the same sport.
Bro, I'm looking at these end of year award shows from channels that I collaborate with, channels that I watch. It's like, what was the fight of the year? Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor, or Conlon against Lee Wood? Why are you comparing the 2? It's like me saying, what was the best NBA game from last season? The Lakers and the Houston Rockets, or the Sparks and some other team I never even heard of? I don't know. It's a different sport. Why are people? This is a new trend, by the way, Joe.
You're right.
Speaking of men's and women's boxing, it's 2 different sports.
2 different sports. I apologize.
It's two different sports. So listen, I gotta be honest. That's it, pretty much. I mean, unless anybody can make a coherent, logical argument.
You wanna drop a link? You want to drop a link and see if anyone wants to come in and kind of refute any of these arguments? What do you want to do?
Oh, I mean, we're doing it right there. So that's what it is. So link is in the chat, guys. I'm actually gonna throw out the number too. This is the number to my channel, but you're gonna be able to call in here if you want to at all.
I mean, if you're an AJ cheerleader and you want to jump in here, feel
That's
free,
fine.
man.
I mean, listen, the argument's been made, and I think the argument's been made very well. Tyson Fury's title run, the average score given to those wins was about a 9.5. The average score given to AJ's wins.
It was a 7.5 because we had the Chisora and the Dillian White fight in there.
Pardon me?
All of the fights, all the title fights ended up becoming a 7.5, the three biggest title fights. I'm sorry. Did you say the three biggest wins title in the title reign?
And what I said. So the three biggest wins.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
The total wins were 7.5.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
And both were like 6 or 6.5 for AJ, were they not?
AJ was a 6. His total title fights were a 6. Tyson Fury's was a 7.5. Now, again, people can argue, oh, he fought Wilder 3 times. Even still, fighting Wilder 3 times is still better than fighting Joseph Parker and Carlos Takam and Alexander Povetkin. And even Andy Ruiz. Would anyone pick Andy Ruiz to beat Deontay Wilder? Would anyone? We saw what Deontay Wilder did to Eric Molina and Dominic Brazil. Would anyone? I mean, you could argue some people may have picked Klitschko to beat that version of Klitschko to beat Wilder, but I think it would have been 50-50. Maybe more people. I don't know.
Yeah,
you can argue that.
I don't think you're wrong, fam. I don't think you're wrong at all. I'm just setting up the phone here because I had somebody try to call in, and I didn't realize I had to update a feature on my phone to allow the call-ins to happen seamlessly. So my apologies to the number that just tried calling. I'm going to try to set it up, and I'm going to get you set up right after that happens. But in the meantime, anybody that wants to join us, you can just click the link, right? You can still click the link on your phone and join us in while I finish doing this. But yeah, I mean, look, the narrative that he gets the big fights done, I don't know what that big fight is, Joe. Other than the fight that he was forced into through the WBO to fight Alexander Usyk. What exactly are these big fights that have been set up? Because I'm just literally seeing mandatory fights against Takam. I guess you could call the Parker fight a big fight that was set up. I don't really know. I don't really consider it that, to be honest. I mean, it was a fight. Was it a huge fight? I don't know why, because it was in the stadium. I mean, what exactly was Joseph Parker when AJ fought him, Joe?
He was a guy who won a vacant title.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to try to call in area code. What is this? Area code 5914. Who's trying to contact us? Area code 914. I'm going to try to get you back on. But again, if in the meantime, if you're trying to get in contact with us, just use the link. I put it in the chat. But essentially for me right now, it's sounding a lot, Joe, like either people don't really disagree with what we're saying or they don't really have any counter arguments to it.
Yeah.
I have Ruiz Jr. knocking out Wilder if he gets close. The question is, will he get close? I don't know.
I mean, like Wilder got up from some, from Fury's knockdowns, and it took Fury 11 rounds to knock him out. Like Andrew Ruiz got close to Luis Ortiz, knocked him down twice, and he couldn't get him out of there. So how's he going to get Wilder out of there? I don't know. I mean, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. I'm not going to discredit your opinion, but just keep that in mind that he did get close to Luis Ortiz, knocked him down twice, and couldn't get him out of there. So.
We got, while I'm working on the phones, we got Fernando joining us. Fernando, what's good?
What's up, guys? Good morning. So, I understand when fans, like AJ, Anthony Joshua did revitalize the heavyweight division in a commercial sense, but as a fan that watches boxing from my TV, so I live in New York. I'm not at Wembley. I'm not in these big Cardiff, like these big arenas, right? Boxing's a collaborative effort. It takes two to tango. So just because one guy's commercial viability or star power may eclipse the number 2 in the division, or we're trying to figure out the number 1 in the division, right? So the perceived number 1 and the perceived number 2 have to fight each other. The way fans go on about which fighter is the more prestigious, lucrative franchise, so that's why number 1 and number 2 shouldn't fight each other. It doesn't make any sense to me. Well, like that, I think that's what a lot of these arguments are about. It's like, okay, this guy is such a superstar, he doesn't need the other guy. No, it's a boxing match.
Agreed. I mean, again, at some point, you got to make a decision as the fighter, dude. Like, and it's not like the fight with Wilder or the fight with Fury would have been small. They still would have been big fights.
But what does it matter to a fan if one of them happened to do more at the box office, or if one of them happened to do more at the live gate? Like, how does this?
You're right. What's happened is, when you have a tough time criticizing performances in the ring, like against, let's say, a guy like Dillian White, who got knocked out. I didn't have him winning a 5 or 10 seconds segment of that fight. Well, yeah, he knocked him out, but I mean, I saw a few hundred seats that were not full. It's like you're grasping at straws, guys.
Yeah, it's basically a deflection. You're looking for other areas to elevate the fighter you like because you don't want him to look or be put in a negative light.
How much of this is like a current generational thing as opposed to actual Fury hate? Because we see this in different divisions. Oh, Gervonta Tank Davis is such a superstar, he doesn't need to fight the next perceived best guy, even within his fan base. So you go within a particular fighter's fan base and you look at the next perceived best guy. Like they'll have their guy as number 1, but they warrant the guy not fighting their perceived number 2 and 3 because his star power eclipses theirs. You see this in different divisions in boxing. This is some new thing. Like,
he was saying that about George Gambosis Jr. Who the fuck is George Gambosis? We don't even know who that is. What does George Gambosis bring to the table? How about 3 title belts? I'm talking obviously about Tank Davis.
You go to any other sport, you rarely hear one athlete say, well, who's that guy? Who's that? Like, they'll never diminish their own sport by completely discrediting another athlete within their respective sport. This only happens in boxing. Who is that guy? Never heard of him. He's a bum. He's a Euro bum. He's an Ameri bum. Then sometimes they take the name calling to another astronomical level to where they're disrespecting, sexuality and things like that. This is, honestly, I think is for the guys that make boxing content, quality boxing content, Ringside Reporter, Maestro Boxing, Ring IQ, Boxing Talks. I can't name all the channels off of the top of my head. Like, I can understand how you guys are hardcore fans, but I don't know if it's healthy to be a hardcore boxing fan anymore if you're not involved in one, if you're not involved in it like that. Like, if you're not a content creator, or I really don't know how to follow this sport at this point, because you go on Twitter, you go on YouTube, and they take these things. And these fighters only fight once or twice a year, by the way, but they'll take certain things and they'll turn it into something else and make it very toxic to the point where what exactly you kind of want to distance yourself from that. You go to the workplace, you socialize with your friends. Very few of them, well, in my case, very few of them actually follow boxing. They'll know about a big fight, but it's turned into some type of like. And then when the actual popularity contest happens, like you'll have a Jake Paul come into boxing, but like the boxers get mad. But who brought that culture into the sport where it's like, oh, I'm a superstar. You're not a bigger superstar than me. You know, I do X amount more at the live gate. I do X amount more at the box office. And look at what it's turned into. Fighters can't get mad at Jake Paul when the same guys were like, who's that guy? Who's this guy? Oh, I'm a star. I'm a draw. He's not a draw. He doesn't sell any tickets. And this is what you have right now.
Fernando, there was a little bit of that back in the day. I mean, I wasn't alive at the time, but with Leonard and Marvin Hagler,
Marvin Hagler
flexing on him in terms of being the bigger box office star. It definitely was big time when Floyd was around. I mean, Floyd was.
And what age did I know Hagler? One of them was coming off of a layoff, like a semi-retirement. And I think Hagler was retired, kind of retired, and then he came back into the game for this fight. But at what age did that fight actually end up happening? Even though that was considered a late fight by then.
I think they were both either, what was it, in their late 20s or early 30s?
No, they were in their Hagler was 33 and Leonard was 31.
Okay, so early 30s. There you go.
So look at Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford right now in our era. I understand that was a middleweight. Hagler was a middleweight, and the fight ended up happening at middleweight. But look at what's happening in actually look at our current middleweight division. Look at our current middleweight division. So even all that star power stuff was going on then. Look at how much, like, it's kind of a regression. It's an obvious regression if you kind of, I'm not going to say, back in the days everything was better, but look at the welterweight division. Look at the middleweight division. Those were supposed to be
the more appropriate and comparable question to ask would be look at Leonard and Hearns when they were at both welterweights. How old were they when they fought? And
that was definitely 20s.
And they were only 2 belts back then, and they were the 2 best guys in the division. And that was a unification fight for Undisputed at that particular time when there was only 2 belts back then when they fought, right? Because the IBF came around in like 84. They fought I think it was 81, right? So that was for Undisputed. And those guys, I think they were 25 and 23 at the time when they fought, if I'm not mistaken, or something like 26 and 24, somewhere along those lines. So they were in their mid-20s when they fought. And they fought for Undisputed and they got the job done. And in comparison, what do we have? Terrence Crawford is going to be 35 soon, and Errol Spence. How old is Errol Spence? Like 32, 33?
Yes, he's 32 going on 33.
Yeah, so look at the difference there. Leonard was never ever really a middleweight. I mean, at his biggest, he was probably a junior middleweight. When he stepped on the scale for those fights, I mean, he was fully clothed. There was also rumors that he had like rolls of quarters in his pockets and stuff. Like, he was never really a middleweight. And it's amazing that he even fought at super middleweight. And he had that crazy fight with Donnie Leon at 175 and 168. The 2 titles on the line at the same time, which I thought was ridiculous at the time. And I love Ray Leonard, but I just think I thought it was ridiculous to have Donnie Leon put his 175-pound title on the line when they're fighting at 168. I just didn't like that. But yeah, that's a better comparison, I would think. Just Leonard Hearns, comparing that to Spence versus Crawford.
I agree, but back to the topic. The issue is for me with the analysis to hear from a lot of people. AJ's got the best record. Well, we looked at it. I mean, I'll be honest, it's not very impressive. It's just not.
So this is the thing. People want to credit. So resumes are independent of how much money you brought into a division, right? And so, yeah, I am happy that an Anthony Joshua exists. I'm happy that he kind of revitalized the heavyweight division. But I'm not going to take those points and distribute it to what the top tier in his resume, like the best that he has to offer in his resume, and the best that Tyson Fury has to offer in his resume, and the best. You get what I'm saying? So people have not a nostalgia, but they're like, oh, this guy kind of made the division hot again. And a lot of YouTube channels, when they would make content about Anthony Joshua. Like it was good for everybody. It was good for boxing. It was good for YouTube. It was good for the fans. You know, it was good for the promoter. It was just good business all around. But I'm not gonna take that. So like some of the lower, I don't want. Okay, the guys that you named under 7 on the 10 scale, right? Yeah. So when AJ fights him, he does better business.
I'll name
he does better business.
Eric Molina, Dominic Brazil, Charles Martin, Carlos Takam, Pulev. I mean,
right.
But here's the thing, Fernando. What happens is when you can't justify the quality of the fight, you then talk about the event. Oh, it was in a
yeah, but they're two separate things. They're independent of each other.
Oh, it was on Sky Box Office. Great. That doesn't mean it was actually a good fight against a good opponent. I mean, yeah, you sold out some stadiums. I get that, but look at who you sold out the stadiums fighting.
Now I will say this: Anthony Joshua is more polished, and he handles like if you look at Tyson Fury, you'll say one thing one day, he'll say another thing another day. But I don't really care about that. I only care about when he steps in the ring and the bell goes off. I really don't even care about these long, elaborate ring walks. I just want to see the bell ring and I want to see the fight. So I guess there is some vitriol by people because Tyson Fury may be very contradictory. He'll do a lot of media, and within like a short span, he'll contradict himself. But once again, that really doesn't have any bearing on what he does within the ring.
Exactly. And the other thing too is, I mean, to his credit and also to his detriment, he'll go on a morning or an afternoon radio talk show and speak openly to the people doing those shows. He'll give a lot of interviews on social media and he'll put himself out there on social media. Whereas AJ is a lot more recluse. You look up AJ interviews. I mean, he's doing interviews with like GQ that are like highly curated and far different than like opening himself up to like a talk sport or whatever. And again, like, yeah, he does contradict himself. Nobody's saying he doesn't. He does say a lot of clownish stuff. I'm talking about Fury. Nobody's saying he doesn't. But the narrative that AJ's record is the best and AJ's always been about making the big fights, well, this didn't happen, guys. All right? And I'd be surprised if it happens right now, honestly. Right? When the names that I'm hearing for his comeback fight, you know what's crazy, Joe? I actually had heard somebody say even something crazy. They said he's gonna fight someone in a comeback fight and then fight Dillian White. What?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, I see my man Ring.
Shout out to Ring IQ, man. He says Fury is a fraud. Thank you so much, brother. I mean, it is what it is, bro. It is what it is.
But I think Ring IQ says that in jest because he is a boxing aficionado.
Fury does give you a lot of ammunition to not like you. But one thing Ring IQ has never said about Fury, he's never said he was a bad fighter. You know what I mean?
So yeah, I listen. I think Ring IQ does a better job of propping up boxing more than some of these boxing promotional outfits.
I watch all of Ring IQ's videos.
Yeah, he does he does 2 relays a day, and I think what bothers Ring IQ is Tyson Fury will contradict himself within like a 2-day span. That's 4 relays. So Ring's got to report on what Tyson Fury said on a Monday. Then he's got to say what Tyson Fury said on a Tuesday, which contradicts what he said on a Monday. So I understand what Ring IQ is saying, but once again, the resumes are the resumes.
Yeah, I know where Ring IQ is coming from because I never liked Floyd Mayweather. Like he just the way he carried himself, he just never resonated with me. But I always gave him credit for his fights and his a lot of the criticism he got, I didn't agree with it. You know what I mean? Simple and plain.
Yeah, let me get to the super chat from Alexander Wilson. And we had 2. We had one from Ring. So big up, Ring. I'm going to do that again. And Merry Christmas to you, brother. And to you and your family. And we got another super chat.
You got to read. You got to read. He wants you to say Fury is a fraud. You got to read it.
Well, I didn't see that part. So
Yeah, you gotta read it.
he said Fury's a fraud. Okay.
Fury's a fraud. He wants us to say that. So we gotta
He
give. We gotta.
said that one was for me. So
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
we also got Alexander Wilson with the super chat. To do that again. He says Usyk was signed to Matchroom for the Bellew fight. Was a fight for Undisputed. So Usyk was the only undisputed fighter that Matchroom had.
Well, he became undisputed before he was a Matchroom fighter, though.
Yeah,
Oh
well,
yeah,
World-
and that's
the
another
World
thing.
Series. Eddie Hearn did not promote the World Series of boxing.
The
Cruiserweight tournament.
alumni from the World Boxing Super Series, the alumni that came out of there, Inoue, Josh Taylor, Alexander Usyk, like that WBSS tournament is a great thing for boxing.
It was great.
And the alumni coming out of there, they go on to do great things.
I'll also tell you why I think it was a great thing for boxing, Fernando. They did it in divisions that have typically not been the most popular in the United States. So bantamweight created a star, right? Cruiserweight, it created a star in Usyk. And the path to becoming a star in a lot of these divisions that don't get a lot of attention in the United States, I talked about this yesterday on my channel, whether it's 105, whether it's 108, whether it's 112, 115, 118, 168 or 200, you got to make a name for yourself by unifying and by becoming undisputed, because those are not divisions where you can just hold the IBF title or WBO title independent of other titles and like have people recognize your greatness. They do it a lot for lightweights. They do it a lot for welterweights. They do it a lot for middleweights. They don't do it for those other weight divisions. So there's definitely that. But yeah, it's like I'm still waiting for the big AJ fight. Like,
guys, I'll say this in closing because I got to get back to my family. It's Christmas.
yeah, was it you that tried to call in, Fernando, or do I need to call that person back?
No, that was me.
All right, perfect. So I don't need to call you back. I had set up now. Thank you.
So what I want to say is, a fan has every right to, celebrate their favorite athlete however they want, buy the merchandise, say that they're the best, but never advocate for a fight not happening. Maybe deep down you have a slight fear that your favorite fighter may lose, but don't ever use a popularity contest excuse for why your perceived number one can't fight your perceived number 2 or 3. And that's what's locking up these divisions into a deadlock. And I think if you want casual fans to follow boxing, you need more tournaments like the WBSS, where there's a quarterfinal, semifinal, final. Everybody could follow that. All other sports are structured that way. Maybe boxing could follow the tennis format. I know there's a lot of politics. I try to enjoy it for the good. I don't want to argue about the bad. I try to enjoy it for the good. And like Beeb said earlier, it looks like there's more a higher probability of Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk happening sometime in March, and we still don't have any of those same indications for a Tank versus Garcia fight. Not that I'm throwing cold water on that, but whenever Bob Arum says something, the promoter's coming out and saying something, and the other side's promoting.
You know what's funny about that fight too? In the grand scheme of things, it's actually a meaningless fight. Like, Garcia's not a lightweight anymore. He doesn't hold a title at lightweight. He never has. He doesn't hold a title at 140. He never has. Tank Davis doesn't hold a title at 135. What exactly are they fighting for?
Well, Ryan might kind of want to be done with boxing, so he just wants 1 or 2 big fights, and he might sail off into Hollywood.
Yeah, it's a non-title fight. Like, you want to go out and do the next thing, take on Devin Haney.
Yeah, but Kambosos doesn't have the belts anymore. So when Kambosos had all the belts, everybody was calling him out. And then when it transferred over to Devin Haney, it got quiet.
Calling out Devin Haney. Why isn't Tank Davis calling out Devin Haney?
Well, here's the thing, man. Like, Devin Haney looks headed to fight Lomachenko, and now there's even dates there. That fight's being thrown around for like May. And once again, there's already been potential offers. Like, they're saying it could happen in New York, Vegas, Las Vegas. So when Bob Arum talks about a fight potentially happening, he he takes the appropriate steps to make sure the fight gets done, and he actually negotiates and gets offers and shops the fight around to potential arenas and stuff like that. These guys haven't done anything. You know what I mean?
Guys,
like,
another thing. I saw some there were some people that are like, well, why does Devin Haney want the fight early? And I'm like, yeah, I want it to happen sooner than later.
Ramadan.
Yeah. No,
Ramadan's
I'm saying
coming up.
So fans want the fights to happen later than sooner. This is weird. When Devin Haney said I want it in March or I want it before then, I was like, yeah, I want to see him. I want to see this fight as soon as possible. Right?
Yeah. Well, he's got Ramadan coming up though. He's got Ramadan coming up.
Right. And I like that. I like that he wants to fight earlier. Because when you wait too long, it may not happen. If you let it marinate too long, it's not going to happen. So there's people on YouTube saying, well, why does he want it to happen so early? Well, whatever his reason is, as a fan, don't you want to see that fight sooner than later? Yeah. So once again, guys, I got to go, but how many fight fans are actually fight fans and how many fight fans are political boxing fans, So there's a fine line between the two, but anyway, guys.
Here's let Fernando go. I want to ask myself a question. How many AJ fans actually really believe that he could beat Tyson Fury? Do they just say it because they want him to, or do they actually believe it?
I think he could beat Tyson Fury because when they were rumored to be fighting at the beginning of December, a lot of the fans, I go on their channels, and they're, saying that, oh, well, he's coming off of a loss. This isn't a good timing for him. He's not going to be ready for this. Okay, well, when is he going to be ready then? I mean, right now I'm hearing people saying, like I said earlier, that he should have a tune-up fight and then fight Dillian White. As if Dillian White wouldn't be a tune-up fight for a championship level opponent at this point. So it's very interesting to me, but what it seems like this is going to be happening. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. There's already being offers made. There's dates being thrown. There's a date being thrown around. It's very highly probable that this is going to get done. I mean, we don't want to put the cart before the horse, but Bob Arum is looking to make an announcement soon, he's saying. And I've asked Bob Arum about fights before, and when he's trying to make a fight, he's very, very non-committal unless he has it dotted, everything is done. He's displaying a lot of confidence in his statements that this is damn near close to getting done. They're working extremely hard to get this done and get this over the line. So,
right, and that's promising. Definitely. And, listen, I'm hopeful. I hope that AJ gets a big fight. A tune-up fight is not a big fight. A white fight to me is not a big fight, especially after the Franklin fight, which was not a very good look for Dillian White at all, in my opinion. At this point, fights that I think would be interesting for a AJ would be a Wilder fight, because like I said yesterday on my own channel, to me, that's like what in football and soccer they call a relegation fight. Losers getting relegated, winners getting, to stay alive in the heavyweight division. So that's an appetizing fight, because the loser of that, you getting relegated, I'm sorry. That's what makes it interesting, right?
I actually like that fight better than, as crazy as may sound, I find that fight more intriguing than the Undisputed fight.
You find it more intriguing than this fight?
I do.
So
people call me an idiot for saying that, but I just think both guys are so vulnerable and they are very offensive and they both punch hard. It makes for a great fight. Like that Fury Usyk fight, I don't want to be pessimistic about it. It does have the potential to be a stinker. Could be the way that I don't know how well those two styles are going to match up. So
no, I don't disagree with you at all. I think it's definitely an action fight, and when it's kind of a loser go home scenario, that makes for an interesting proposition. Personally,
yeah, and there's a story behind that fight. There's a lot of history about in regards to that fight. So
right, And it's an intriguing matchup because of it, because of the past failed negotiations, because of the fact that they would have fought for Undisputed, because of the fact that now they no longer have titles, right? All of those things make for a very interesting promotion, I think. And there's a lot, there would be a lot on the line with that would make it a good matchup. I like that matchup. But here's the thing, do you see it happening?
I'm skeptical. I was very optimistic about it happening, but I'm kind of getting skeptical about it now because Eddie Hearn's, I don't know, man. It just seems like there's not a lot of confidence in Team AJ right now, and they may be concerned about putting him in there with Wilder because of the punching power. So I was optimistic, but my optimism is starting to wane right now. If I'm being honest.
So that's one fight that I think would be interesting. Again, it's a relegation matchup, right? That's the bottom of the table. It's loser survives another day. Winner survives another day. Losers gets relegated. You know what else is an interesting proposition to me? I think, and it's a way for AJ to get back into the title picture rather quickly against a guy who's kind of vulnerable but still has something to offer.
Bergovich.
Right.
Oh, him too. Yeah, that's a good one.
Why not? Right? He's got the Reggie belt, right? That puts you in line to become a mandatory. They're both from the UK. It's a crossroads fight. Another interesting scenario, right?
Unfortunately, he tore his ACL in the last fight, so he's going to be sidelined for about 6 to 8 months.
That's the issue with that fight, from what I've been told. Failing that, maybe Zhilei Zhang. Failing that, maybe a Filip Hrgović, but it doesn't even seem like they're willing to put him in against that level of opponent. You know what? Another one. Go for it, Joe. You wanted to say something?
No, I was going to say anything. Go ahead. I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, I'm saying right now it doesn't seem like they're willing to put him in with that type of an opponent, unfortunately, which is interesting. Because I definitely wouldn't mind seeing it.
No, not at all.
I wouldn't mind seeing it. But it doesn't look like a top tier opponent is what's on the cards. It seems like they're lining him up to take on some kind of a tune-up fight, right? Lastly, the other one that I think would be interesting, Joe, would be this, right?
I could see them. I could see them not wanting to make that fight right now, but I would love it. I would love it.
Right?
Yeah, I would love it.
So there you go. Listen, Joe, I think we hit the nail on that one. Not too many people were able to disagree with much of what we said in the chat, and anybody that might have disagreed didn't click that link or tell us why, really, other than thinking maybe Lennox at the beginning. Not really quite sure what his direct line of argumentation was, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he was all over the place.
Yeah, but I think that's about it, Joe.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, so listen, as I said earlier, Merry Christmas to everyone. We wanted to get this out to you. I know I'm on Joe's channel right now, by feeling like I'm at liberty to say, we're giving you guys a little bit of a Christmas gift here. Want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and consider joining the memberships, because Joe is giving you guys a lot of top quality content here, guys. And despite what a lot of people think, we don't actually really get paid through the algorithm. When, we get any kind of, money or funds, it all comes through memberships and super chats, really.
Mostly, yeah.
So, consider joining the membership. It helps the channel a lot. And keep tuning in. But Merry Christmas, everybody, and wishing everyone safe and happy holidays. All right, we are out. Thank you so much.